Everybody has a certain level of respect for Rock Lee because he sucks at normal ninja style, ninja art type stuff, but he said I'm gonna make up for it in hard work and dedication and specializing in straight up hand-to-hand combat, raw speed and skills and stuff. Which technically puts him at a disadvantage not having ninja art type stuff and relying on physical strength and speed, considering other characters have strength and speed and ninja art. But the guy that inspired him and his master, Might Guy, is incredibly impressive. Let's analyze him, shall we, when it comes to super ninjas. I mean, there's a lot going on in this ninja world. It's a lot of different types of ninjas as well. Unlike Rock Lee, who is a being that struggles with doing secret arts that allow you to use your inner energy to produce energy blast power type of stuff, Might Guy is one of them beings that can use blast power type of stuff too, on top of being a Taijutsu, aka hand-to-hand combat specialist as well. Example of ninja magic Might Guy can use, or one can say ninjutsu, is something others can do, like summoning different beings, like this turtle, for example, this giant one, standing on water thanks to chakra or inner energy manipulation, just like most ninjas can do, especially top tier ones. Just like in this occasion, for example, you can see him standing on water. He knows ninja arts that can counter illusion type jutsu, ninja magic bullcrap like genjutsu, which is basically affecting your mind, make you see trickery or illusion type stuff. They can actually break free of it. Might Guy can. Since Might Guy isn't a heavy ninjutsu type character, he's developed ways to fight you with taijutsu that will not allow him to be trapped in an illusion. Or one could say genjutsu is because this is how he used to fight Kakashi, because he knows to fight like this against Sharingan users. You just cannot look into their eyes, look at their feet, and predict their movements like that. That's what Guy said. The other ninja even said that's easier said than done. You're the only one that can do that, Guy, because Guy's built different. And Guy says, yeah, that's true. In his lore, there's different chakra natures that allow different ninjas to manipulate different elemental type stuff through chakra. Chakra natures he can technically do is lightning, fire, and even summoning, like I've already showed you. But this is not even his bread and butter. He's more of a hand-to-hand powerhouse type rather than shooting energy blasts and stuff. I mean, his student name is Rock Lee. Doesn't that remind you of Bruce Lee? So it makes sense that he's a hard-working dedication type character and can actually fight hand-to-hand wise, physically, and with speed. But he'll also pull out some nunchuck to use in hand-to-hand combat as well. In this occasion with nunchucks, for example, big boulders that are bigger than his entire body, his striking power with the nunchucks can shatter them. Even the villain saying impressive. When it comes to strength, there's implications he's stronger than Rock Lee, who's also superhuman to hold weights on his leg and still move decently fast. I'm talking about weights that are so heavy when Rock Lee drops them, it creates this much of an impact after he drops them. This type of training is thanks to Might Guy. This dude Guy is so strong. This is one of the absurd type of training method he'll do. He'll do 500 laps around Konoha doing a handstand, when others say that's impossible. It just gives you an idea of how strong and resilient his body and muscles are and what they have to do to work to be able to do these things or supernatural things these ninja can do. In this particular occasion, for example, it's implied that Guy can train for 24 straight hours because he has a video guide helping you do so, which shows his stamina, endurance, and its ridiculousness. I mean, when you do training like this, it kind of makes sense on why they can bypass their mental limiters in their body. There's this technique called the 8 inner gates only those trained by Might Guy seem to know, which pretty much removes limiters to your chakra flow in your body. Everybody has chakra. Everybody has a certain limit that your body pre-assigns for it to use. Rock Lee and Might Guy can pretty much override this. But for example, Rock Lee can only open up to 6 as we've seen, but Might Guy seems to be the complete master of it, having the power to open up all 8 and become godlike, but I ain't even gonna get to this yet. I'm gonna go over this later. He can basically transform, basically, is what I'm saying. So in this video, when I show him changing colors like this, it's just him transforming using this 8 inner gate type technique. It literally multiplies his power. So when you see him looking like this, he's taking it easy on you, but when he does this, he's going crazy. There's a lot of numbers you can throw out when it comes to how much stronger they get. They even go as far as saying dozens of times. So one could say opening several of these gates can multiply his power times 10, and blah, blah, blah. It's no exact number. Here in this occasion, they even mention it that you can achieve over 100 times your normal power, surpassing even the 5 gate temporarily when you use these gates. In this occasion, it's implied that each gate boosts strength and speed. It's stated here that normally human beings utilize a mere 20% of their own muscular energy. If anybody were to employ anything close to 100% of the strength of his muscle, the muscles themselves would quickly break down, so the brain sets a limit on how much on your own muscle power we are willing and able to use. The secret of this technique is in the overriding that internal cranial safety feature. It's like you're telling your body to stop holding yourself back subconsciously to power himself up. But the drawback is that it's dangerous because your body will release tons of more energy than it should, even if it causes your body's muscles tearing or whatever, pushing your body to its limits and beyond. And he's the one that taught Rock Lee this, and you know how powerful Rock Lee is. And he's the one that taught him all this. So in the Naruto world, there were ninja ranks. You know how Naruto was when he was young. Of course, Naruto surpasses everybody way down here when he become like Sage of Six Paths and stuff. But I'm not talking about that right quick. Might God, for the majority of what we've seen him, was a joining level being. But when he does the mightiest, he can surpass that by a lot. Even stated on occasions like this, or one could say he could potentially get 100 times multiplier when doing gates. An argument can be made opening all 8 gates is 100 times multiplier from your base. You know, this could be just like a pun, like hundreds of times, could be like a, just a random number or something, but they're implying a lot. The 5 Kage, just the top ninjas, the ninjas of each area, the president of each area, basically. And God, when he opens up all the gates, he can surpass Hokage level beings, even though he's not necessarily Hokage. But I'm going to get to that for him later. Just know the 8 gates are crazy. Basically, his Super Saiyan mode. That extract a heavy price, though. I mean, his super strength in base form is more than enough without even counting his Super Saiyan transformations, basically. That can multiply his power dozens, 10 times, or even hundreds of times. He was able to do this to a young Lee with a punch. Considering that he's stronger than this is a kid Rock Lee. By the way, they can rip up all this tree. And he's just bullying him in training like this. I know it's hard to believe. There was a time where Might God was physically stronger than Sasuke, especially when he was younger and was still trying to understand his abilities and stuff. That makes sense, right? Why am I bringing this up? Is because you got to look at how strong these little kid ninjas are. And then you got to understand that Might God is a lot stronger than these little kid ninjas. Even though Sasuke was mighty for his age, he still wasn't above somebody like Might God. This ginormous bear that makes humans look puny, Sasuke as a kid can one-shot beings this big despite him being the size of almost the bear's eyeball. So if a kid Sasuke that's way weaker than adult Might God could do this with physical kicks, imagine what Might God could do to a bear. He probably can do this even to a bigger bear, if we're being honest, in his base state. You remember that being Rock Lee was struggling with? That Sand Ninja Gaara? Do you remember when Gaara started getting the advantage over Rock Lee with his sand attacks? Gaara has some decent blast power even while young like this. With his sand attack, one could say blast power. He can do all this to the concrete wall that's behind him, for example. Gaara tried to do the finishing blow with these sand avatar bullcrap. Might God is strong enough to where when Rock Lee's defenseless, he just pushed it away with the wave of his hand because of his physical paralysis. That's strength. Haven't really got on his speed much, but yeah, it's kind of a given since we know Rock Lee's fast, but he's also powerful enough to do this to the wall with his strikes. Dude even says fast. He's not just fast, but powerful enough to punch this being through this wall. If you're a Naruto fan, everybody knows about the Akatsuki members and how they're a dangerous organization of super powerful ninja warrior bad guy beings. Pretty high on the food chain, one could say. We've seen Might God stick beings like Kasami, one of the members of the Akatsuki. Everybody respects Itachi, and if Itachi says don't take him lightly, you need to respect it. We've even seen him kick Jiraiya and make his nose bloody. He's always clashing with these Akatsuki members like Kasami, for example. It was a clone of Kasami, but still impressive. Remember earlier how I brought up nunchucks? Well, let's talk about him facing the Akatsuki clone, Kasame, again. When he pulls out these nunchucks, when Kasami tries to use this big sword against him, it creates this big old geyser of water, showing the after effects of their strikes. Even God has such strength, pushing God to the limit in his base form. Look how Kasami's sword just drills through rock like it's butter, like drilling through it, like driving through it while the tip of it is above it, cutting through it. The guy was still able to block this regardless. He does eventually fight the true Kasami though. Look how hard he can elbow and break all that. His strikes cause all this collateral. You know you're strong when you can fight an exact clone of yourself, showing that you can fight somebody that's just like yourself. I mean, you already know he can use nunchucks, but when you can use nunchucks on top of his crazy fighting speed in his base form, that's a crazy combination. I mean, look at all this stuff he can deflect with his fighting speed with the nunchuck. These kunai get deflected. During all this madness and chaos, he has to have a lot of fighting speed and skill on top of it, literally countering from the back with nunchuck. So majority of this video, I've been talking about Might God's base form, which is a beast in its own right, but I haven't even gotten his totally different beast of modes like his gates, which multiplies his already crazy strength and speed to the point where he gets an aura, his hair goes up, and his skin literally changes color. But what's the best way to understand how strong he is like this? First of all, in the Naruto universe, you have to remember there's a whole bunch of different tailed beasts, and they're all very in power, right? I think we all can admit they all can shatter mountains, right? Even though every tailed beast isn't equal, this is a perfect scenario of where we can see different tailed beast bombs being deflected, and all of their explosions seems to be mountain-esque type of sizes. Like you see these mountain ranges, you see these energy blasts. Like you can see how this explosion looks compared to the land. This just gives you like a little teaser on how strong these tail beasts are when it comes to evidence on what Might Guy and them have to punch and fight against. Okay, so you got these things called tail beasts, right? You got the tail beast, and then you got like host beings or humans or something the tail beasts go inside of, right? They're like two beings in one. Naruto is like the one we see the most in the series, but there's other tail beasts, right? Do you remember when Naruto didn't have full control over his tail beast? So little pieces of his power would come out. You got the 1 tail, 2 tails, 3 tails, 4 tails, 5 tails. Like the more tails, the more he starts looking like the actual beast. But throughout the series, we hardly ever got to see the actual full thing come out. There's evidence when Guy is using like at least 5 or 6 gates, he's up there with these tail beasts. Because remember Naruto, when he wasn't even in his full form, 4-tailed state, aka not 9 tails. 9 tails is all the tails. Only 4 tails level. Jinchuriki can produce mountain-shattering type of blast that levels entire towns and stuff. With energy blast, this is only 4-tailed Naruto, not the full power of the tail beast that can do stuff like this. When he used to go berserk back in the day when he didn't have control over the tail beast. Nowadays, he has control over modes like this and is much more powerful now. Even though Naruto was in a better state like this, these Jinchuriki wasn't just easy pickings. Guy proved when he powers up that in this occasion with these tail beasts and they was battling them, when this stuff was trapped around Naruto, he was still able to break free of it using just a couple of gates. With just 6 gates, not 7 or 8. So basically not his full power yet. In this occasion, you see tail beasts that, similar to how Naruto looked in the past, cloaked. It's heavily implied that his strikes can damage him when it comes to multiple different tail beasts in this situation. Okay, just for those that don't know, right? All these tail beasts used to be a singular entity called the Ten Tails, but they were split up into all these tail beasts, right? The 10 tails got weakened and became a literal shell called the Gedo statue. If you still have your doubts about Guy's power, it's implied here he can actually damage the Gedo statue. Yeah, the literal shell of the tail beast. And this is the same statue. You're probably thinking, oh man, this statue ain't that strong. It don't have the tail beast in it no more like it used to. Well, tell me why this same statue was able to eat a full-blown punch from the 8 tails himself. Not necessarily Naruto's 9 tails, but the 8 tails is a tail under him. And it's able to withstand punches like this and from cloaked Naruto in his golden form. So it lets you know how durable and strong it is. Guy can affect entities like this. So there's heavy implications with at least using 5 or 6 gates that Guy should be above a cloaked form Naruto like this. Maybe not as strong as Naruto like this. He still should be able to slug it out or produce force on some tail beast type level type stuff. I know this is just a filler, but in this filler, Might Guy Rock Lee was fighting Tail Beast and was kind of overpowering it, and that seems like something that would be accurate to narrative with at least a couple gates. I mean, cool, it's filler if you think that's BS. Rock Lee in canon, a Rock Lee that still can't use all the gates Might Guy can. Keep in mind, Might Guy can totally use the same gate that Rock Lee's using, 6 gate. Rock Lee and other Taijutsu beings can shatter a meteor with his punching power alone. Of course Might Guy can do this. If this is not enough evidence he could blow apart mountains, I don't know what is. I mean, he broke something that Naruto, when he had full control of the tail beast chakra, was struggling to get out of. So, you know, his might is crazy. I brought up Kisame a little bit earlier when he was fighting this clone. Guy said it's time to turn up the heat with this 6 gate that I'm still going over, which can overpower tail beasts and stuff. So it's natural that he would be producing this much energy underwater to where all the water is splitting it like on some Moses type stuff. And when it comes to speed and strength, he, like Kasami, just got straight up blitzed. He can punch and create all these flames with his punches, mixture of speed and power to put it all that together to do this to him. This form used his speed to where this orb was coming towards Kakashi. He was fast enough to move Kakashi out of the way. When all of these water sharks, like, look, it looks like a mountain's worth. He literally punches it with this attack. Fire. This is him. Look how little he looks versus all of this mess. He punches all of this away. It's that simple. He was moving so fast that his fist caused friction and made flames erupt. A taijutsu that destroys one's opponent via both those flames and the shockwave of punched air. That's not the only time we see these friction punches in action. We literally seen Guy and them fight different tail beasts. This tail beast, for example, shot some corrosive stuff that would damage you on contact. When Guy's in the face of this tail beast's corrosion, flaming punches, you know, since he doesn't have to touch it with his fist, he can do projectile flaming type of attacks to blow it away with the 6 gate. It's funny how Guy had all these gates during the earlier arcs. Makes you wonder why Might Guy didn't just speed blitz Pain in the Pain arc, but instead they had Naruto in Sage Mode take him on when Guy could have easily took him out with Gate 7 or something. But that's none of my business. Gate 7 gives him even more strength and speed. Gate 6 was already mighty enough to punch away this many shark water clones or whatever. But when he opens the next gate, he gets even more power in a single blow. By the way, this is actually the real Kasami, by the way. He pulls out gate 7. This technique, Hidura, his single attack with Kasami, they had a clash. He thought this was a chakra attack. This is not chakra. This is a straight blunt attack. Caused this much of a tidal wave after the explosion. Definitely could shatter a mountain or two after producing a blast like that because of the blast radius being crazy. People that are not even necessarily close to it can feel the aftershock of it. It's just a plain old super punch. Makes Kasami sleepy with a punch too. Do you still not understand the difference in power between gate 6 to gate 7? Well, how about the legendary ninja known as Madara, right? The same Madara that can take on the 5 Kage, basically the 5 ninja presidents of each area of the world. He took them all on at the same time in his base state, right? I'm talking about messing them up. But tell me why this dude got a form to where he basically was getting on the level of the legendary godlike figure Sage of Six Paths himself, the being that created the moon in this universe. Madara kind of got his own Sage of Six Paths mode. I mean, look how they look similar. Matter of fact, the Sage of Six Paths even said it himself, said that Madara in this state was reaching near his level of power, and Guy in his 7th state, aka not his craziest gate transformation yet, with raw speed, was able to kind of put this version of Madara on the ropes for a little second. He's not on his level like this though. But when it comes to raw speed, he kind of forced him on defense. This mighty punch in this 7th gate known as Hidodura is so mighty, this Susanoo that Madara has in base state was fighting up, Tail Beast mode Naruto, for example. Guy, 7th gate, super punch knocks it away, the Susanoo, and creates mountain-sized explosions. Might Guy's super attack, known as the Afternoon Tiger, creates a shockwave. Like, you see these roots of this divine tree, right? You see how wide this is compared to one of the roots? It's nowhere near as big as it, but that can give you a little idea of how much power he's producing. Just a far out angle of how big this divine tree is. Like, one of these roots is like the size of mountains. So I think it's fair to say that even gates like gate 5 and 6 can level mountains, and this is astronomically higher. So gate 7, it can blow away multiple mountains, or one could say in the whole island or a city if he really had to. I mean, at this point, leveling a mountain is a joke. He can level probably 10 mountains, or even split the whole island itself in half if he had to. This is the best way I can make a grid for you to understand the power difference between 6th, 7th, and the 8th gate. In previous gates, he could already match cloaked level beings like maybe a 6 or 4 tails, 5 tails Naruto, jinchuriki, right? But then he raises to the point where one could say he's basically a planet buster like this. So there was this godlike being known as the Sage of Six Paths. He would do things that even Pain would say is unfathomable. Like strong beings like Pain can do planetary devastation to create a whole bunch of rubble out of the earth that's mountain sized to contain jinchurikis or tail beasts and stuff. Nagato, aka Pain, for example, literally states here, this ball he made was nothing. This is the kind of power we're talking about. They literally created the moon out of a whole bunch of rubble from the earth. He was the reason why the 10 tail was sealed up in the first place. So imagine an entity being so strong that you need something as big as the moon to even seal it up. Madara pretty much fuses with all these tail beasts. He becomes one with the 10 tails and becomes the Jinchuriki. Like you see the orbs around him, kind of reminding you of the Sage of Six Paths, right? Madara basically becomes one. That's how he gets this power up. That was comparable to the Sage of Six Paths level of power. Just note that anybody in this clan is overpowered. Sage of Six Paths is one of them, but there's a lot of them that have similar power or more. So not only can beings like this create moon-sized structures with rubble from the earth, but you got other beings that are kind of like Sage of Six Paths level, or at least comparable. Beings like this have attacks that can slice objects as big as the moon in half. This is just to give you an idea of what kind of power Madara has at this point, being up there with Sage of Six Paths level beings in general in this clan. One can argue temporarily he could be in the highest class of power more than everybody we know, but this is still up for debate or questioning. It's one thing to seal up beasts or the 10 tails with a whole bunch of debris from the earth, to literally speed blitz a being that's got similar power to Sage of Six Paths, damage a being that's pretty much fused with all the tail beasts and got him on the ropes. A being that is fused with the tail beast said that being hit with 4 or 5 of those type of attacks would be bad. He needs to avoid him. Implying that 3 or 4 attacks would be, one could say, lethal to somebody that's a Sage of Six Path level being. Notice the absurd crater that he made with that punch that deep into the ground. Like, pay attention to that. And how deep that crap was. He gained so much raw power and friction that he can literally jump on the air. And then Madara tries to shield. Madara gets hit so many times to where he's spitting up blood. Guy punches and lands a direct hit on him, damaging him here. It's heavily implied that he's actually above Madara. It's just that this time limit is just the bad thing. He was so mighty, Madara even said out of all the beings he's fought, he's a legendary ninja, by the way. He said nobody surpasses him in Taijutsu. He even acknowledges his speed. One can argue this is where he actually approaches light speed because he's bending space alone with his speed. Madara saying he's fast has an attack with the name called Fang of Light that Naruto in this state had to react to with raw speed mid-flight. Since it's implied that Guy was too much for Madara and Madara couldn't hardly defend himself when it comes to Guy's speed, there's heavy implications that Guy in this state can fight at light speed or slightly faster than light when you look at the fact that Madara couldn't hardly defend himself or do nothing when it comes to Might Guy's speed. He hits him so hard, it takes him through a whole bunch of debris, cracking rib cages and also damaging himself in the process. His attack made an explosion as big as the divine tree roots. This tree is so many times bigger than mountains, by the way. One of their roots is bigger than mountains, so this is impressive for this to be this big. He ripped half of his body off, even said almost died. At this point, he's up there with the top tiers, so he technically should be able to punch apart the moon or at least split it or cause big type moon collateral damage type destruction. When it comes to raw power, he had to surpass Madara in this Sage of Six Paths state. I mean, he couldn't even do nothing to defend himself. He surpassed all the tailed beasts because he literally overpowered a being that's literally fused with all the tailed beasts, and he was completely defenseless. He could definitely split the moon in half with a kick if he felt like it as well, just like the other Sage of Six Paths family. How much destruction do you think he can do to Earth if he just wanted to like mess up the planet? You think he would make a continent-sized crater in the planet if he wanted to? So while he may be above him like this, there's matchups that we'll never see that I'm curious about, like these two facing off. Somebody that's technically above that version of Madara that Guy was handling. This guy went from being around some of the tail beast level to surpassing every single tail beast combined in this level. Keep in mind, Madara stated out his mouth that he can't take too many hits from this attack known as the Evening Elephant, right? Said getting hit from 4 or 5 of those would be lethal. He needs to avoid those, right? With 5 hits, those will be considered lethal. This Night Guy is stated to be in an even greater technique, which is why he did so much more damage. Literally kicking half of his body away, doing so, but at the ultimate price. Like, you know how tail beasts in weaker forms, for example, can take their own mountain-shattering blast. Like Naruto back in the day that was able to withstand a point-blank blast of his own blast. This large. This same concept applies for when all the tail beasts are put together and shrunk and put into a humanoid avatar, small humanoid body. Like all this big creature's durability and all this stuff go inside this humanoid body and they change modes to where his appearance even looks like this. I'm showing this to prove why Guy in this 8 gates hurting this Madara in this powder state is impressive, having this type of being inside of him. Because the 10 tails is durable enough to take its own blast, even stating that its hide is tough. Multiple times of the 10 tails taking its own blast. This is why it's impressive for Might God to harm avatar form, for Might God to harm somebody that has this big entity inside of him. And we know Sage of Six Paths level beings like the 10 tails, for example, blah, 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 being in this realm of power or neighborhood. Like this movie isn't necessarily Might God or Madara or anything, but these are beings that have similar powers and stuff like that. Sage of Six Path tier beings, blah, 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 blah. Have energy blast attacks like this energy slash, for example, that can slice all the way through the moon itself. That's why we don't necessarily need to see him actually level the moon to know that he can based on the beings he can damage. Guy in this state probably could have caused earth destruction, but that's none of my business. But that's pretty much all I got for you guys. Do you guys respect Guy? He's ridiculously mighty. What do you think his limits are? You know he's a top tier. How do you think he would match up against the current top tiers in Naruto? But before I get going, I gotta say thanks to the donations, everybody. Respect Might Guy. I mean, it's the reason why he was teaching Rock Lee. But I'll see you guys later. I'm glad you are enjoying your time on the channel. Make sure you check out the playlist on the channel to see other How Strong videos. If you like what this channel is offering, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys later.